Leadership in organizational settings. What is leadership? We all know great leaders, but we also know terrible leaders as well. Throughout history, we've witnessed both types of leaders. Leadership is one of the most researched and discussed topics in the field of organizational behavior. Leadership is influencing, motivating, and enabling others to contribute toward the effectiveness and success of the organization of which they are members. Leaders apply various forms of influence, from subtle persuasion to direct application of power, to ensure that followers have the motivation and role clarity to achieve specialized goals. Anyone can be a leader if he or she has an idea or vision that other employees are eager to follow. The competency perspective of leadership has identified several leadership competencies that include skills, knowledge, aptitudes, and other personal characteristics that lead to superior performance. These competencies include personality, self-concept, drive, integrity, leadership motivation, knowledge of the business, cognitive and practical intelligence, and emotional intelligence. For example, born on October 28, 1955 in Seattle, Washington, this leader began to show an interest in computer programming at age 13. Through technological innovation, keen business strategy, and aggressive tactics, he and his partner, Paul Allen, built the world's largest software business, Microsoft. This leader is, of course, Bill Gates. Always having to look over his shoulder to see where competition was, he developed intense drive and competitive spirit. Gates expected everyone in the company to have the same drive and dedication. Because his intelligence allowed him to be able to see all sides of the software industry, product development, and corporate strategy. His confrontational management style became legend as he would challenge employees and their ideas to keep the creative process going. This is an example of the competency of an effective leader. His personality was assertive and conscientious. Oftentimes, though he experienced doubt, his self-belief and positive self-evaluation about his leadership drove Microsoft to be the world's largest software business. His inner motivation gave him the drive to pursue goals. Bill Gates' truthfulness and tendency to translate words into deeds showed his integrity. Challenging employees was a test to see if they were as passionate as Gates was for his own company, and he used his challenge as motivation to accomplish team and organizational goals. His keen knowledge of the business allowed him to push ahead with Windows software, improving its operation and expanding its uses. His cognitive intelligence and ability to solve real-world problems allowed him to develop a profile of all possible cases and run through them. His pursuit of passion drove his emotional intelligence.
Another perspective of leadership, the behavioral perspective, contains two distinct leadership styles: people-oriented and task-oriented. Leaders that are people-oriented are those that listen to their employees, make the workplace more pleasant, show interest in others as people, compliment employees for their work, and are considerate of employee needs. On the other hand, leaders that are task-oriented assign work and clarify responsibilities, set deadlines, evaluate and provide feedback on work quality. They establish well-defined best work procedures and plan for future work activities. For example, throughout the Industrial Revolution, we saw the expansion of factory labor, and the focus of many managers was on production. Their end goal was high productivity. Managers in these factories did not listen to the concerns of their employees or make the workplace more pleasant because employees, including children, would work in deplorable, dangerous conditions oftentimes. And the main goal of these managers was not the well-being of his employees, but instead on the end product itself and the amount of money received for this output. They were not people-oriented leaders. As time progressed and laws were passed and technology improved, managers began concerning themselves more with making sure that they hear and understand the concerns of their employees and make the workplace more pleasant. This is how we obtained the 8-hour, 5-day work week. On the other hand, a leader who is task-oriented would someone be like a principal who was made aware of the grant that could tremendously help the school's library And to do so, ensure that they receive the grant, the librarians worked with the principal to delegate the tasks of researching, writing, and applying for the grants. In this regard, the librarians knew exactly what their work assignments were, what their responsibilities were, and this set the foundation for evaluation, obtaining feedback from the principal regarding their work on securing the grants.
Additionally, there is the contingency perspective of leadership, which is based on the idea that the most appropriate leadership style depends on the situation. Most, although not all, contingency leadership theories assume that effective leaders must be both insightful and flexible. There have been several contingency theories proposed. One of these, the Pathgold leadership theory, states that effective leaders ensure that good performers receive more valued rewards than poor performers. In other words, Pathgold theory advocates servant leadership. Servant leaders do not view leadership as a position power. Rather, they are coaches, stewards, and facilitators. For example, a company that allows for intrapreneurials versus entrepreneurials is someone who values the work that their employees do, but at the same time seeks to serve as someone who does not hinder their own ideas for the company, but instead facilitates the production of ideas by allowing their employees to work on their own individual projects within the company. The more productive the entrepreneur is, the better rewards he or she will receive versus someone who does not take on this opportunity. Transactional leadership versus transformational leadership. Unlike contingency and behavioral perspectives, which examine how leaders improve employee performance and well-being, transformational leadership views effective leaders as agents of change in the work unit or organization. They create, communicate, and model a shared vision for the team or organization, and they inspire followers to strive for that vision. Leaders often contrast transformational leadership with transactional leadership. Transactional leaders influence others mainly by using rewards and penalties, as well as negotiating services from employees. For example, sales managers may coerce sales representatives to attain a certain goal by using rewards and penalties regarding commission in order to negotiate services from the sales reps. Transformational leadership is about leading, changing the organization's strategies and cultures so that they better fit the surrounding environment. These leaders are change agents who energize and direct employees to a new vision and corresponding behavior. An example of a transformational leader is Nelson Mandela. He transformed an entire continent through authority, authenticity, commitment, mastery of communication, and consistency of message. He appreciated the power of symbols and the moral persuasiveness of genuine acts of kindness. Additionally, he set an example of reconciliation and vision for his countrymen, and that let them know that he expected them to live up to it. Organizations require leaders who both manage employees and transform the work unit of the organization. Managing improves organizational efficiency, whereas transformational leadership steers companies to a better course of action.
The competency, behavior, contingency, and transformational leadership perspectives include the basic assumption that leaders make a difference. However, leadership also involves followers' perception of the characteristics and influence of the people they call leaders. This perceptual perspective of leadership, called implicit leadership theory, has two components: leader prototypes and the romance or attribution of leadership. Leadership prototypes are preconceived beliefs about the features and behaviors of effective leaders. These prototypes, which develop through socialization within the family and society, shape our expectations and acceptance of others as leaders. And this in turn affects our willingness to serve as followers. Additionally, there is the romance of leadership effect, which exists because in most cultures, people want to believe leaders make a difference. For example, it can be said that when President Kennedy was running for president, there was a leadership prototype of him that was developed by American society as a whole, due to the fact that he was young, attractive, affluent, respectable, and driven. This in turn allowed him to attract numerous constituents and ultimately win the election. Additionally, because of the leadership prototype, This led to a romancing of him as a leader because the American society found it easier to accept him as a great leader, and also to explain his success and failures as a president in terms of his ability he possessed, and demonstrated to America rather than by analyzing a complex array of other forces.
Perspectives of leadership from a cultural and gender perspective. We don't think there's room for discussion for contrasting the previous scenarios because leaders can possess all of these traits. However, there has been a discussion on the difference between cultures and sexes regarding leadership. Culture shapes the leader's values and norms, which influence his or her decisions and actions. Cultural values also shape the expectations that followers have of their leaders. With regards to gender issues and leadership, several surveys report that women are rated higher than men on the emerging leadership qualities of coaching, teamwork, and empowering employees. Yet, research also suggests that women are evaluated negatively when they try to apply the full range of leadership styles, particularly more directive and autocratic approaches. Thus, ironically, women may well be suited to contemporary leadership roles, yet they often continue to face limitations of leadership through the gender stereotypes and prototypes of leaders that are held by followers.